will we be introducing Richie? I think Richie can introduce himself at this point.
No.
What do you think, man?
No.
Richie's our intern.
Am I up now? Am I up?
Yeah.
Is that my turn?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I guess I'm Joris. Hi, everybody. I'm new. I'm wearing a princess crown because I'm now a princess, as my daughter just told me. I've done a couple things in the community, I guess. Statistics parser and data profile, and I'm the co-founder of the .NET group. I also run a podcast called Away from the Keyboard, and I am now working for Brent, Ozar Unlimited.
The way you said the community stuff, it sounded like, I'm Ron Burgundy?
I don't know. Do I do that? It was funny because I was writing the blog post, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I do all this stuff? How do I sleep? That's amazing.
You don't. You're just now realizing it.
Oh, that makes sense.
Right,
Well, it's just going to fall over.
It's 11:15. I suppose we should start taking things at least a little bit seriously.
All right.
No, or maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
There's the crown.
So let's see. What can we plow through? James wants to know, how can I set up performance counters and report them to a SQL Server table? Is there a good blog or article?
Do you mean like perfmon counters to a SQL Server table? I don't know about that one.
It says
I did it years ago. I just don't know if there's a better way now. So I set up a counter file. I don't remember what the exact term is in there. It was scheduled, and then you save it to a CSV file, and after that you can just import it, like you could any other CSV file. I'm just not sure. This was back in SQL 2000, 2005 days. There's possibly a better way to do it.
Yeah.
Of course, if you are just looking at the SQL Server perfmon counters, those are available already through T-SQL. But if you're looking at stuff like Windows stuff, just save it as a CSV and import it via BCP, SSIS, whatever your tool is.
Not SSIS. Not that one.
Okay. Let's see. Jennifer Qualls says, can you please tell me about extended events? It looks like they started with 2008. That is the only year of official documentation. I found them in a 2014 box that I'm just starting to look at. Are they installed by default or manually or by some other action? Thanks.
Yeah, extended events are part of SQL Server since 2008, but they didn't really get a GUI or anything good until 2012. So lucky you, you're on 2014 where things are a little bit less heinous. There are a lot of good resources out on the internet about extended events. It's kind of too broad of a topic to just tell you all about right now during this webcast, but if you have a specific question about them, then we can probably answer that. But as far as, just general information, use your junior DBA Google on that one.
Okay. Let's see. Doug Purnell wants to know, has Microsoft changed their guidance on applying CUs from only to specific issues to the same guidance as they have for service packs?
Yep.
Yeah, they're moving away from service packs, so we're going to have to get used to getting the organizations to approve applying CUs and not waiting for service packs, because service packs may not come, or they might be so infrequent that you're going to be so outdated with security fixes and bug fixes.
They're already pretty infrequent, right? They're like, they don't look how far apart they were for 2008 R2, Service Pack 3 and Service Pack 2 were years apart. So, you should already be kind of in the mindset of, I'm going to get these CUs out there. Just, make sure that you test them on a dev server first so that things don't explode.
Okay. Burning question from Willem. Did you sign the petition to rename fill factor to fragmentation factor in order to deter its overuse?
I'm neutral on these issues.
I just don't care enough.
Yeah. Then the guy fill factor will have to change his name to fragmentation factor.
Yeah.
Cause all sorts of ripples.
That poor guy. Yeah.
Or fill factor.
It would ruin his life. It's not good.
Yeah, years of branding down the tubes.
Can't have that.
Yeah. Okay. Miguel says, "Hi, we're getting a brand new SAN flash storage for a new Epic application. According to Pure Storage, they are saying they can do a better job of compressing and deduplication than SQL can. Currently, the app vendor recommends uh, and their SQL scripts are set up for SQL compression." Um, wow, I don't know because he wants advice and.
Uh, why don't you just test it? We don't have access to a pure storage SAN. You may, or at least like you could get a demo of it from them since they're trying to sell you something. I don't know if it's better or not. That's vendors have all sorts of crazy magic numbers that they like to push out for things. So the only way to really test it is to verify it yourself.
Yeah. And life comes at you fast. Look at that. The slide says, "Welcome, Tara." And already she's not the new person.
You know what? I didn't make these slides. Talk to the guy with the name on the letterhead.
Yeah. Okay.
But welcome, Tara, anyway.
Hello.
Welcome back, Tara. You made it through another week.
So Eric Swigum says, "I was unaware of the socket config for SQL Server standard. They limit you to 4 sockets. Why does Microsoft care if you have 1 core to 1 socket up to the max 16 CPU?" Because of licensing money, that's
Licensing,
why.
Yeah.
They want you to purchase Enterprise.
Money.
Yep. All right. Okay, Nathan wants to know, is there a way to use Blitzcache for an interval of time? For example, to see the most expensive query from 4 a.m. to 5 a.m. on February 1st or whatever day. Blitzcache only looks at what's in the plan cache at the time that it runs. I guess if you really wanted to achieve the same effect, you could blow out the plan cache at 4 a.m. and then run Blitzcache at 5. But otherwise, I think you're looking at like a monitoring tool or some other kind of DIY solution. What do you guys think?
I would implement who is active.
Yeah, you could log who is active to a table.
Yeah, that's
just
something.
Careful not to do it like really like a lot, because if the more you do it, like you can slow stuff down. If you log it like at a millisecond level, you can slow your server down quite a bit. I wouldn't do it any faster than you're able to like reasonably hit F5 and see something new. So like maybe every like 10 or 30 seconds or something. Most monitoring tools poll every like 30 or so seconds, so 30 seconds is a pretty safe window.
Yeah. Okay. David wants to know, is there any way to tune the bulk insert process transactional replication uses in 2008 R2 when you synchronize a snapshot? It takes us 6 or 7 hours for publications with over 100 million rows. So can you tune replication?
Can you buy a bigger server? I mean, you can adjust like the batch sizes, I think, right? Like the replication will push over, so you could maybe bigger batch sizes would help. Aside from that, I'm not really sure. You could increase the number of agents, I think, that it uses, and also that would, you'd have more things pushing more stuff across. Richie just disappeared. He quit in the middle of the first podcast. Webcast, whatever this thing is. Web and podcast.
Yeah. So if it has to be like a one-to-one snapshot, then you can't do this. But you can limit the number of columns that you're bringing over to. Try to make it a smaller snapshot if you can, but I don't know that there's much more you can do there. Okay. Can you point me to a good article for installing a SQL 2012 cluster? Did a lot of 2005, some 2008 R2, but looking for gotchas.
Probably Alan Hurt's website.
Yeah. Something about Alan Hurt. Actually, you know what? That's not the only source. That guy Edwin Sarmiento, Sarmiento, actually has a lot of stuff about clustering. Actually, like video walkthroughs of stuff on his site. So he's pretty good. That's Edwin Sarmiento. He has a lot of good information on that.
Okay. Cool. Larry wants to know, I had heard somewhere that the max degree of parallelism should be set to an even number. Is this true, and why?
Doug?
Surprisingly, not as true as you might think. So last August we went down to Dell's headquarters in Texas, and one of the experiments that I ran was I had a box with, it was either 56 or 64. It was an obscene number of logical cores.
86.
Yeah, and so I went through and I did a max-stop test on some large queries against the Stack Overflow database. And if you don't know, Stack Overflow is like a 40 gig or so database, so it's a reasonable size. And the interesting thing was the number one max-stop performance-wise that I got for my query was 14. And then the number two was 15. It wasn't like 16 or 18 or 12. So what I found was that even or odd doesn't really seem to matter that much. At least on the queries that I tested out. Now, for a whole system, that's a different story. It's something that you're going to have to try on your own. But I don't think odd numbers suffer a massive performance penalty like I kind of expected they would.
You know what? Paul White actually did a really interesting demo at, I forget which, I think it might have been past 2013, but it was about parallelism. And there was actually a case where parallelism at max.8 had like very uneven thread row skew across the threads, but when he set it to max.7, the rows like divided perfectly across the threads.
Oh, weird.
So there are actually some things that happen there where odd numbers kind of fix things, but not everything. So you have to have a very specific problem to fix that, to be clear. It is cool sometimes.
Mm-hmm. All right, James wants to know, what are the disadvantages of shrinking a log file?
You have to regrow it again.
Fragmentation.
Someone kills a kitten.
Richie kills you. That was his code for that.
All of the above?
Someone kills a kitten.
Yeah.
So log files, they don't get instant file initialization the way data files do. So if you're just shrinking your log files willy-nilly, you're gonna have to regrow them because they grew to that size for a reason. So unless it was a one-off event where something went bonkers and bananas, and your log grew to like twice the size of your data file, you probably want your log file to be about the size it is. If you're running out of disk space, you're better off adding a second log file somewhere else that has space on it until you can migrate fully just do like an empty file somewhere else and move your log file over.
Okay. How does compatibility mode work when I have a 2008 R2 database set up to use 2012 or 2014? I'm assuming that means a 2008 R2 compatibility mode on a 2012 or 2014tion server. Will it work on the instance? Yeah.
Otherwise, you broke these tags.
It's at the database level.
Yeah. So he's wondering, will that work, basically?
It works. You just won't be able to use the features of 2012 or 2014. All the T-SQL that's new in 2012, 2014, you won't be able to get those, but you'll be able to, in case you have anything that was functionality that was removed in the newer versions and your app doesn't support it yet, compatibility mode is helpful in those cases.
Yeah, so Microsoft actually publishes a list of breaking and other changes between compatibility modes. So your best bet is to check up on that and see if wasn't stuff to cover.
Yeah, just test it, right? I mean, that's
just flip the switch. Go crazy. Experiment with your body.
Go crazy.
Get your nose pierced. Whatever.
All right. If you purge data from a table in SQL, do you automatically regain the storage space used on disk? No. Definitely not. So that delete gets recorded somewhere, and in order to reclaim that, you have to do some sort of operation like that basically flushes that out.
Well, so if it's a heap, right, then the pages aren't even going to really go anywhere. They don't even get deallocated unless you delete with tab lock. And if you just delete data out of a table, the database is going to stay the same size. You'll just have more white space once Ghost Record Collection runs within your data file. So you'll have more space in the data file to grow, but the space on disk won't change if you just delete stuff out of a table. Unless you shrink the data file, but don't do that either, because that's silly and foolish. And you saw the look on Richie's face. It's a killer. It's a stone cold killer.
Okay, for BI, moving data from TRX, which is an ERP system, DB server to a data warehouse DB server, should I use SSIS or replication?
SSIS.
What makes you say that?
Don't do replication to yourself. It's
Yep.
it's horrible. You'll turn into the fly.
Yeah.
No, it's a one-off process. Why set up replication for something you're just moving once? SSI, get it over there and call it a day.
Yeah, if you're moving it once, definitely I would go with SSIS. If you're trying to keep it in sync, maybe not such an easy call. I did see Carlos Bossi used to have real-time reporting in a data warehouse. He had a presentation on that, and it involved both SSIS and replication, and it was bonkers, but it worked really well. So I don't know if Carlos has anything out on the web as far as that presentation goes. It might actually have aged far enough that it would be a publicly available. I've seen replication as part of an ongoing real-time reporting solution get pulled off successfully. But other than that, I would go with SSIS.
Right, but most people just pull it once a day, right? I mean, then report on that.
Yeah.
If you do like a snapshot replication, you can just push one snapshot over, and it's a little bit easier than constant data flow.
All right. What are your thoughts on using fn dump dblog to determine the details on a transaction that has rolled back? Is there a risk when using this in production?
No, there is a bug with fn dblog. Dump log is okay. dblog is the one with if prior to SQL Server 2012 Service Pack 2 or SQL Server 2014, there was a bug where it would spin up extra schedulers with threads on them that wouldn't go away until you restarted. But fn dump dblog is okay as far as I know.
Okay. And David has a comment. Pure storage dedupe is really good for data warehouse data, but high volume OLTP changes so frequently it can't dedupe it.
Someone better tell Argenis.
Right. Yeah. We didn't mention Argenis Fernandez is a really well-known SQL guy. He's at Pure Storage now. He's DB Argenis on Twitter as well. So if you have questions, you can always throw them at him. Okay. Garland says, you guys have inspired me to convert to Mac. I purchased a new MacBook Pro last week and been working on setting it up. Do you have any good resources for a SQL DBA on a Mac?
That's going to be you, Doug.
Yeah. Any chance you guys might update your Mac post soon? Oh, and welcome to Richie. I actually don't know what Mac post you're talking about, but I can tell you this. I'm a little bit concerned because I saw a blog post from a guy supposedly that worked at VMware that they dropped the whole Fusion team, and I use VMware Fusion as a VM host for my MacBook. It's great, but I don't know if that blog post is actually true. I don't know how long VMware Fusion is going to be around. Maybe they'll sell it off to someone else. I don't know. But
well, it sounded from the blog post like it got all the operations got moved from U.S. to China. So they might not drop it. It just might be developed overseas now. So depending on your thoughts on Made in America, change whether you use that or something else.
Okay. Yeah, I'll have to look at the Mac post you're talking about. But yeah,
it's 2010.
Is it? Oh
yeah,
boy.
Probably needs an update.
They put the URL.
I should probably write a new one. Okay. Yeah, but anyway, good. At least you know your hardware won't fail for the next 4 years. So let's see. I work in an app that does complex calcs inside its engine, and it generates many of the keys inside itself. Oh boy. I'm struggling to find a good starting point for examining solid data architecture design for refactoring. Any tips on how to approach refactoring many keys that are generated in the app engine? And lastly, any solid resources for better intermediate advanced data architecture design? Wow, that was a mouthful.
Richie, take it away.
Oh, yeah, woo!
They said refactoring, so I'm pointing to the code guy.
We were serious.
So take it a step at a time. If you're looking at Yeah, no. So if you're taking a look at redoing keys, especially from an app perspective, you just need to rethink the whole thing. A lot of times that I've actually had to do these things, we actually rewrote the database and rekeyed and remigrated everything over because it was just such a huge architecture change from a software perspective. So if you're looking at, I'm not reading the question right now, but so if you're looking at moving it away from the app and into the database, then that may be an option. But at that point, man, what are some good books out there on some of this database design stuff?
I mean, Lewis Davidson has great books on database architecture and design that I enjoy thoroughly. That's my only suggestion.
Yeah, a lot of you're doing these refactoring stuff on a database perspective. It's also very one-off, and it's very unique to your own situation because it's a custom solution. So, think it through and test things out and go from there.
My only advice is to be like really liberal with how big you think this thing is going to get. Like, if there's any question in your mind about you having, 1 billion records in a table, you go with the big end identity column or whatever, or like go with GUIDs, just sort of bite the bullet on all the stuff that comes with GUIDs and clustering keys and stuff, and just use them because you're never going to run out of GUIDs. You can still run out of integers.
Yeah, you may collide with the GUID, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you may collide. Those are pretty rare though. I only collided with the GUID once. He ended up in much worse shape than me.
Okay. Any issues with multiple instances, that is 2 or 3 instances of SQL Server on the same server?
Yeah, because I'm willing to bet if you're doing that, you're also too cheap to buy enough hardware for one instance.
Well, okay, and let's pretend that your hand is forced and you have to do that anyway. One of the problems that you will run into is that it makes performance troubleshooting a particular instance very difficult because you don't know when the server is performing badly because one of the other instances is hogging all the resources. So if you look at things like wait stats and stuff, it won't give you the whole picture because you've got a whole second or even 2 more instances doing their own thing and contending for resources on that same server. So monitoring that can be a real nightmare. If it's slow, then the first thing you need to do is separate them.
Yeah. I mean, if you're really looking to consolidate stuff like that, go with VMs instead, because at least then you can, get some good separation of resources going on and not just rely on like, I'm going to set max memory here and then I'm going to affinity mask over here and then I'm going to do this witchcraft, and it's horrible.
Okay. What would y'all consider a poor page life expectancy?
Depends on which state it lives in. No.
Okay.
Depends on which state it lives in.
Oh.
If it's in New York, it's like under $2 million a year.
Oh, boy. So, yeah, typically when we're looking at whether or not memory is a problem, we look at wait stats first. But having said that, if you really want to know what a bad PLE is, if I see something that's 3 digits or fewer, then I start to worry about that server. But that is not the first thing I look at when I'm trying to figure out if memory is a big deal or not.
Yeah, PLE jumps around a bit, so it's something that you have to trend over time. Like if you measure PLE once, that's what it is when you measured it. It's like PLE because it like SQL changes, right? So like it's like how long SQL thinks a page is going to stay in memory at this point in time. So it might change, like if you're doing big index view builds or running DBCC CheckDB or running some big reporting query. But generally, you want to see it, pretty steady, and you want to see it as a fairly high number. As far as fairly high goes, it sort of depends on your server. If you're seeing like memory issues like CMEM thread weights or resource semaphore weights or resource semaphore query compile weights, then you probably have some memory pressure going on. But you have to look at those for yourself.
Okay, put on your cluster party hats. Justin wants to know, any reason why a link server works on one node of a cluster but not the other, getting an encryption error on node 2?
Are they using the same encryption? Yeah, make sure that they're using the same type of encryption. I have a blog post up yesterday about mirroring, where I set it up via the GUI, and for some reason the witness and the primary were using 2 different encryption methods, and that's why I couldn't get things working. So make sure that they're using the same kind of encryption for your links to OEVA.
Okay. Can you recommend a tool or best method of moving SQL reports from one instance to another? I have 50 plus reports to move. I assume you're talking about SSRS. If you are, there are a couple of things you can do. You can actually, if you're talking about moving, it depends on if you're talking about moving the catalog to a new instance or if you're talking about like pointing a different instance to the same catalog. Because if you're pointing a different instance to the same catalog, then you're fine. Nothing has to change. But if you're talking about actually moving that stuff out of one report server database into another report server database, a couple of things you can do. There's one older tool out there called RS Scripter that will allow you to kind of copy and paste definitions and things like that. If you have just the SSDT or the BIDS project, you can just redeploy to a new server. The only drawback there is that you won't get any snapshots that you may have saved along the way. But there are a few options as far as that goes. You can do any of those three. Okay. Dorothy wants to know, I have transactional replication from backup versus snapshot. Now the client wants to add an article. How can I add the article without creating a full snapshot?
I don't remember the steps, but you just add the article, and you can just, I forget what the steps are, but it definitely supports it, and it's definitely documented in Books Online what the steps are. You just need to snapshot that one table, and not the whole publication.
Thank God Tara knows replication. Throwing tomatoes at people.
Okay. Mike says, I moved to a new shop. Every 2 hours they set the max memory to half, then back free up memory on all prod SQL instances. I don't see any memory issues. I'm kind of amazed by that. Was this ever a best practice? And I think Mike kind of knows that this is probably never a best practice because he's asking, was it ever? Your thoughts. That's kind of nuts. So
It's just weird.
What problem are they trying to solve? I mean, freeing up memory is, I mean, why else have memory if you're not going to use it? So I'd be very curious.
So it's never a best practice.
Yeah.
No, like if memory gets reused, why don't you just leave it at the half memory that you want it to use if it grows back? Like if you really want to screw your SQL Server, set it to half of what and just leave it there. Why are you teasing SQL Server with here's all this memory? Nope, I gotta take it away.
I mean, SQL Server is not even giving the memory back anyway. Just because you've set the value down doesn't mean it's releasing it, right?
Yeah. No, it'll release it very slowly.
Very slowly, right? Yeah, but they're doing it every 2 hours. I just wonder if they're actually completing it within that time frame.
That is the most micromanaging nonsense I've ever heard.
That's just plain cruel.
That's a worse practice. We'll put it on that list.
Okay, yeah. Okay. Sheldon wants to know, what's the basics on figuring out if to scale up or scale out with lots of small DBs on an EC2 instance? They're currently on SQL 2014 with sync mirroring, which limits them to a max of 168 due to threads, and I need to get to 360 databases at least.
Brent. Who's the AWS guy?
Yeah, I don't know.
Beats me.
I mean, doesn't AWS have a limit on how many databases you can have on like 30 databases on a server anyway, or is that something else? Is that?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, because I thought that there was a limit of like 30 databases because that's all they could take a snapshot of at a time. Like they do VSS snaps of databases, and they can only guarantee that like they can get 30 or so done in a limited amount of time. So I'm not sure. Is it already like how much of this is already set up? Is my question. Or how much of this is just theoretical to you right now?
Sheldon says I think that's RDS that you're talking about.
Yeah.
As opposed to EC2.
Oh, okay.
Oh, right, because EC2 it's a virtual server.
Just a VM. All right.
Yeah.
Not sure on that one.
Yeah, me neither. Amazon might have some documentation on that, but I'm not sure. Okay, looks like we got time for one more question. I've discovered that a new third place has autogrowth set to 1 megabyte. I've now set this to a realistic value, but has this caused any damages or issues that will need fixing?
Is it the data file or the log file, or it doesn't specify?
Just says database had autogrowth.
All right. If it's a log file, you're going to want to take a look at your BLFs to see if you have a very large number of BLFs, which can impact performance and your recovery time when SQL starts. But if it's the data file, I would just fix the autogrowth. I don't know that there's anything that it's caused.
Yeah, I can't think of any downside if it's the data file. I think it'll be fine. I mean, as long as it's a reasonable number anyway. Okay. Well, it looks like it's 11:45. Well,
12:45 over here.
in Iowa anyway.
9:45 over here.
Equal time.
We're all over the map. All right. Well, thanks for joining us, everybody. We'll see you next
Bye.
week.
Adios.